What is going on? Wednesday afternoon. You're listening to the David F. Haas podcast. Thanks for taking the time to tune in. Listen to the podcast. I think this one's a good one. I just sit every Wednesday or whenever I'm recording the podcast. Sometimes I record it on Mondays, and I just ask, like, what is it that people need help with, and how can I be of service to them? Essentially, is what I'm trying to answer every single day. And today's podcast, I think it really was aligned and tuned in, and the topic is why you're not where you should be, or why you feel like you're not where you should be. And this seems to be a reoccurring theme, and I know I suffered from this for a long time, of this feeling that I should be further along than I am. And I had to do a lot of searching to try and understand why I have this feeling, where it comes from. But then also I had to learn how to transcend it. And so today we're going to talk about both of those ideas a little bit, so that you can start to get connected to this constant feeling of like, just I should be doing more, and that is felt as pressure, and it turns your life into to stress and anxiety and worry, and it's just not good. So this doesn't mean that you're going to let go of accomplishing things. No, it's the exact opposite. You're going to let go of what's blocking you from accomplishing things quicker, right? So your desire to be further along is a block to you actually getting to where you want to go. So let's just talk about some practical tips here. So the first one is, if you're constantly focusing on where you should be or where you want to be, then you're not focused on what you currently have already accomplished or what you currently have in your life. So a way to flip the script on that one really quickly is just to start a daily gratitude practice. And then this is something that I played around with, and I've talked pretty extensively about my experience with gratitude. But just to kind of reiterate here is, I was a person that was constantly like, I need to do more, I need to be more, I need more money, I need to be more successful. And when I came to this realization that my desire was blocking me from actually getting what it was that I wanted, and I always use the girl likes boy example here, if a boy likes a girl, vice versa. If a boy likes a girl and he continues to chase her and he buys her flowers and he does all these things, the girl just ends up running further and further away from him. But when the boy finally says, I forget this girl, right? He starts looking for other girls and stops sending her flowers. That's when the girl comes running. And this is the exact same thing that desire does when we're trying to get further along in our lives. It ends up pushing that goal, pushing that finish line further and further away because of the resistance that it creates and the force that we're using to try and obtain whatever it is that we're trying to obtain or reach whatever goal. So I became aware that desire was blocking me. So one way to get out of desire is to start the practice of daily gratitude. So I've been hearing all about this, and I heard, this is what happens when you start tuning in your radar to words like gratitude. And so I started hearing gratitude everywhere. And then all of a sudden I'm watching Matthew McConaughey give his speech. And he says, gratitude is reciprocal. And I didn't even know what reciprocal meant at the time. But essentially what it does mean is that the more gratitude you have, the more gratitude you're going to experience. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's it. After hearing gratitude, multiple times, I'm like, I better start putting this into practice. So I just basically started doing it. I started writing out every morning 10 things I was grateful for, and I would look for things that weren't obvious. Like I wasn't always just grateful for my dogs and my girlfriend at the time and my family. I started looking for I started really looking. Then I was grateful for electricity. I was grateful for running water. I was grateful for the country that I lived in. I was grateful for the life experiences that got me to this level. If I'm sitting here in front of you right now, I'm grateful for this computer and the cameras, and I'm grateful for how my coaching business has evolved and my ability to pump out content way quicker. So it's that's what I started looking at. So what I did every morning was I searched for things that I was grateful for. I just didn't make it obvious. And this is what you can do when you start practice of daily gratitude. Every morning you wake up and I'm grateful for my dad, I'm grateful for my mom, I'm grateful for my wife, and you just do the same thing over and over again. But you really got to search. And what will happen over time is you'll just flip a switch one day and gratitude will be turned on inside of you. And this was an exact moment I can remember. And I like I said, I talk about this extensively. I remember one day I was driving into my driveway and my grass was super green. And I was like, I'm so grateful for my green grass, right? And I'm so grateful for my house, so grateful. And it just, then at that moment, I just literally couldn't turn it off. Now, recently, I found myself in getting mode again. And this happens to me every single time I dive into releasing some of my online content. I get back into getting mode again. And things start to feel like they're not going right, and I start to get into force mode again. So this is what I experienced recently. I'm just in the process of launching my Letting Go school, which is going to be revolutionary, I believe. And if you want to learn more about that, you can join my Letting Go Facebook group. Just go to my website and you can get there, davidhaas.ca. And that group is designed to help like-minded individuals come together and grow spiritually. And I created this school and this protocol for people to go through to understand how to let go of everything that's holding them back. But I'm getting ready to kind of click play on this thing, and I'm doing all the research. I'm taking a course on how to release this thing, and it just like feels like it's like rode back off, and it's forced. And then the other day I just woke up and I said, what the hell is going on here? And I'm like, oh, I'm in getting mode again. I'm not living in the present moment. I'm placing my happiness on the success of the launch of this program. So what did I do? I did what I did 10 years ago or however long ago this was. I got back to the basics. I started writing out gratitude every morning. And in fact, I only did it twice and everything started shifting. Right? I started focusing on what I do have. That's the power of gratitude. We stop focusing on what we don't have. We start focusing on what we do have. And when we do this, we begin to feel more grateful and we attract more situations that will bring more gratitude into our life. This is the power of gratitude. So when you attract more situations that you're grateful for, that will attract moving you towards the goal that you want to achieve. So step one of getting out of this mentality of I should be further along is let's start having gratitude for how far you've come already. Okay. And that will stop the I need to move further along. The second is just the overall energy behind thinking you need to be further along than you are, because it's a wanting. That's all it is. It's a wanting to be further along. It's like, yeah, you're thinking, and the thoughts that are created behind this wanting is I should be doing more, and you're kind of have this guilt about it. That would be the emotion that's trapped underneath there, is the guilt that you're not as far along as you should be. You're 40 years old, you're 30 years old, and you thought you were going to be further along. So it's like all of this is just tied to the desire of wanting. Okay, so the big thing about wanting is that it's actually counterproductive. Wanting something doesn't get it for us. So let me just repeat that. If you want something, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get it. In fact, if you want something, it actually will prevent you from getting it. It'll block you from getting it. So everyone's heard the saying, once you believe it, you can achieve it, right? And this is ultimately what we're trying to do by letting go of wanting. It's like, if you have the intention to make $1 million, I like $1 million because that was my goal. If you have the intention to make $1 million, it was my goal for a long time. My goals have changed since then. I just have to be clear on that. But you have that intention. Once that intention's set, you can let go of all wanting. There's no need to want to have $1 million anymore. Just allow yourself to be pulled by the intention. It's kind of like the intention is like a path that you have carved out. And then you and then once you set the intention, you turn on the water and you just get in the boat and you follow the stream towards that intention. There's no need to want to get towards that intention. You can let go of wanting. I've better described this as if you're leaving work and you want to get home really bad, and that drive home looks like your hands are tight on the wheel, you're changing lanes, you're honking your horn at people, you're giving people the finger, right? And you can want to get home really bad, and it's stressful and whatever, but you can also just drive home without the wanting, and both have the exact same result. Okay? Do you see where I'm seeing? Wanting is pressure, it's force, it's struggle, it's sacrifice, it's grind. Allowing is completely different. You just get in the car and you flow down the stream, right? Or if you get in the boat and you flow down the stream. So all we have to do in order to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve is set the intention and allow ourselves to flow. There's no need to think about anything. And this when I say this, usually it gets people all fucked up because they don't understand what I mean by You don't need to think about anything. When you start to move into observer mode and start to pay attention to what's actually going on in your mind, you'll come to the really quick realization that all thoughts are pretty much useless. Now, does that mean that the mind is useless? 100% not. It's like, if I want to figure out what I'm going to talk about in this podcast, I use the power of my mind to recall the things that I've learned and experienced, and I write them down there. That's a great example of how powerful the mind is, because I can deliver an amazing podcast to you in 10 minutes of prep work, right? But if I have to write this podcast and I'm thinking all day long about what I'm going to say in this podcast, it's all completely useless, right? It's like there's no need to have these continuous and endless thoughts, right? It's just like it's not moving us any further towards the goal. So we can let go of all the thinking. We can let go of all the wanting that's creating all the thinking. And when we start to do this, then we just start allowing ourselves to be moved closer and closer to the goal. And every time we catch ourselves in wanting mode, we just stop. So when we say, fuck, I should be further along than I am. Well, where is it that you want to be? I want to be a multimillionaire. Okay, well, what is a multimillionaire? 2 million, 10 million? It's 10 million. Okay, I want $10 million. Okay, great. Set the intention to get $10 million to attract $10 million into your life, and just allow yourself to move in that direction. Now, I think this example would be further driven home by, me in the restaurant industry. My goal was to make money in the restaurant industry. Granted, I wanted it so bad that it took me probably 10 times longer than it should have. But eventually, through just trial and error and stacking up my failures and using those failures as building blocks, I got there. Because the intention was to be a successful restaurateur. And guess what? It happened. Now, it could have happened quicker if I would have let go of wanting, but I could want it and it could be this stressful, terrible, ugly journey, or I could just allow it. And it's this wonderful, peaceful, enjoying every moment, even the failures, saying, that's a failure that I can use to step up and move to the next level, right? So we can let go of wanting. And I know that's a tough concept. And if you're having trouble with letting go of wanting, then, hit me up, DM me, and I can explain it further to you, because it's a tough one. I get it, because we believe that if we let go of wanting, we are not going to get. If we let go of desire, we're not going to be driven. But it's actually the exact opposite. When you let go, you remove the blocks that are preventing the abundance that's all around you at all times. Wanting, it is like wearing blinders. It's like there's opportunities or help all around you, and you got these blinders on, right? And then all of a sudden you remove the blinders of wanting, you can see all the help that was all around you all along. Okay, so we want to remove the blinders of wanting. The next thing is you have set this goal for yourself, and it's like, well, by whose standard are you setting that says that I need to be in this shape by 40 years old? I need to have this much money by 30 years old. I need to be married with kids. But by whose standard? Who is setting that standard? Is it society? Is it you? We just want to bring some clarity to where this standard came from. And then the next question is, well, who cares? Right? Who cares if you're not as far along as your friends? Who cares if you're not as far along as the next guy that's in business is making more money? I catch myself doing this all the time. I see a coach that's way further along than I am and way younger than I am. I'm like, oh, I should be doing more. I get caught up in the guilt of not working hard enough, right? So the first thing is to let go of the guilt in that situation for me. But the question is, like, what is the standard? Why does that standard exist? And why do you need to get to these levels by some certain time? When I was writing out my notes for this, it's like I was kind of answering the own questions, and it's like, well, it's not even really about proving it to the world, but there might be some proving it to the world in there, but it's also about proving it to yourself, proving that you can do it. So if you've set out to prove that you can do it, that means that you don't believe that you can. And that contradicts the fact that once you believe it, you can achieve it. Okay? So let me say that again. If you're set out to prove that you can do it, it means you don't believe that you can. And if you don't believe that you can, then you can't achieve it. Without the belief, there is no achieve. That doesn't rhyme, but I'm trying to make it rhyme. So, okay, that's good. So then how do I get into the mindset that I believe it? Well, one is you can just use some common sense. If you make a decision to become a highly successful coach, for example, using me, highly successful coach that impacts millions of people's lives, and if I work at that every single day, 8 hours a day, diligently, whether I want it or not, do I believe in the next 10 years I'm going to achieve that? Yes. Yes, I do believe that. If I focus fully on coaching, I believe that in the next 10 years I'm going to be a very successful coach. I mean, I'm already a successful coach in my eyes, right? Or in the eyes of the world. But at the success that I've placed it at, right? I'm not saying I'm going to be Tony Robbins in 10 years. Let's say I could be making $1 million a year income. I could be coaching 2,000-3,000 people a year, right? In 10 years, 100%, I believe that. So the belief is there by just realizing that if I put the work in, it's going to happen no matter what. There's no need to want it. There's no need to desire it. I just know that if I put the work in, I'm going to grow slowly. Tony Robbins, I think my favorite Tony Robbins quote is that most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10 years. All right? So going a step further, though, is if you don't believe it, the question is why not, right? And trying to get to the root of what you think is going to block you from reaching that goal. And when you start to unpack what you think is going to block you, then you can start to get to the root of where that issue began. What is the original incident? So let's use me as an example. The only thing that I believe that's going to block me from becoming a highly successful coach is my own self-doubt. Okay? Because when I start to experience self-doubt, when I fall into the collapse of self-doubt, I become unproductive. All right? So I could go for a few days where I don't actually get things done, right? I don't move the needle at all. Okay? So understanding what those blocks are, what those collapses are, recognizing them and being able to pull myself out of them is critical for my success moving forward. But even still, as long as I still stay diligent, even if I have 2-3 days of collapse, I'm probably still going to get there as long as I stay laser-like focused, right? So maybe that would be one for you. Maybe lack of focus, being pulled in too many directions. Well, why you're being pulled in too many directions? So a lot can be answered just by asking the question why. So ultimately, I think a really good exercise for you to do when you get off this podcast would be to be like, okay, where do I want to be 10 years from now? What's going to prevent me from actually getting there? And then just starting to bring some awareness to those blocks, to those behaviors that could prevent you from doing it. And ultimately, then going to work to become free of those behaviors. As far as what to do to get to where you want to go, the how will be revealed by taking action. If you just get into action, you're going to reveal it. When I first started doing Facebook ads, I was completely clueless. And now, like, I can create a whole entire Facebook ad campaign, a web page and everything. I can do it all in like 2 or 3 days. It used to take me 2 or 3 months, you know? So now I'm like, okay, I'm seeing how this is working. Everything that I need to know is being revealed to me. There's no need to try and figure anything out. You just take action and the how is revealed. Okay. So, the other things that are underneath that is that you don't believe you deserve it. So that would be the feeling of unworthiness. And the thing about proving and the underlying feelings that are under there about why you don't believe you can do it. Because if you believed you could do it, there would be no need to prove it. You would just get into action and do it. So what's under that, right? What's under the lack of belief in yourself, and getting to the root of that and learning how to become free of that and let that go. That will aid you in this feeling, aid you in becoming free of this feeling of I'm not far enough along in my life, right? So now you're doing the work. You've created a dedicated spiritual practice. You're writing out gratitude every morning. The other thing that really helps me is I just sit in meditation, right? And every morning what I'm basically saying in my meditation is, I pray to thee, which is like, to me, it's God. To me, it's a universe, higher power. I pray to thee to know thy will and for the energy to fulfill it. So essentially what I'm saying is, what is it you want from me? Guide me, please, in the direction what is in the highest good for all. And here's the thing about what's in the highest good for all. What's in the highest good for all is in the highest good for you as well. You're part of the all, okay? So ultimately every day I'm just sitting there and asking for guidance. But just allowing yourself 5 minutes or so in the mornings to just quiet your mind is another great tool to get you out of the getting game. Okay. And I know this is a struggle, because even as I'm saying this, I know that you're going to struggle with getting out of getting, but the ego, which is our smaller self, is consumed by getting. Our higher self already has everything that it needs. Okay. Our consciousness, our spirit, our soul, it already has everything that it already needs. So in order to get connected to that feeling of fulfillment, that feeling of I don't need to go anywhere, get anything, do anything, I'm complete, we need to let go of all the programs that are surrounding that. And one of the programs is desire, ultimately. So the big thing about desire is that we are placing our happiness in the future, where we are rich, where we are married, where we have kids, where we live in a bigger home, when we move to the Caribbean. I don't know what it is, right? But if we're not happy now, then we want to start digging into why. And if we can start experiencing how we want to feel by being where we should be, right? If we can start experiencing those feelings now, then we will believe it, and then we will achieve it. Okay? So underneath this, and just as I just talk, I'm just gonna write this down here, because I think this is another great thing to realize, is that underneath the word should is guilt. I should be further along than I am. Ultimately, what you're saying is, I am guilty that I haven't worked as hard as I should have worked in order to be where I need to be, right? So allowing yourself to feel that guilt, just feel it fully. Stop expressing it. That's what we're doing. We're telling people, I should be further along. I just feel like I'm not getting ahead. We're expressing the guilt the inner guilt that we're feeling. But what we're avoiding doing by expressing our inner guilt is actually allowing ourselves to connect to that guilt. Allow ourselves to feel it fully. All right? And we can start allowing ourselves to feel it fully, and the guilt starts to melt away. Then we are no longer being driven by guilt. And guilt on the scale of consciousness is at like level 30 or something along those lines. It's really, really low, and there's no energy in it. Okay? So we definitely want to start tuning into low energy fields so that we can allow ourselves to connect and feel them fully, so we can become free of them. Because you're not going to get any support. You're closed off when you're in a state of guilt. And ultimately, when we're saying I should, we're saying I am guilty of not being as good as I could be. And learning to identify the fact that we're in guilt and how to become free of it, that's exactly what I help people do all the time, right? So how do you become free of it here? By just listening to this podcast. Well, step one is become aware of it, right? So when you notice yourself in the speaking the words I should, just know that you're saying I am guilty of. And then just with that awareness alone, it begins to shift. Just with the awareness alone that you believe that your life is not complete yet, and yet you're in the state of desire, you can start catching yourself when you're in wanting mode and just choose to let go of wanting. And then also just realizing that when you are saying that I should be further along, you're placing your happiness in that place. And you're trying to prove it. When you're trying to prove something, you're saying, I don't believe I can. So just by having that awareness, it's already begun to shift inside of you. So just start paying attention to it. Start paying attention to when you're saying should. I should be further along. Start paying attention to when you're in wanting. Start paying attention to what you're trying to prove, right? And just by bringing that awareness in, it's like you've tuned your radar into receiving the help that you need to receive, and all the answers will begin to come to you if you're willing to take off the blinders. I think I'll leave it at that. So hopefully it was beneficial. Leave some comments below. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. I release a podcast every single week. Also, you can check out my website, www.davidhaas.ca. You can join my Facebook group. And yeah, man, let's get together and let's move up the scale of consciousness. The mind, I shouldn't have put this at the end of this podcast. The mind only reflects what is being held in consciousness. So if we're at level of consciousness 30, which I don't know if it's 30 or not, and we're at guilt, Our thoughts are going to be a reflection of what we're holding in mind at level of consciousness 30, guilt. So in order to change our thoughts, in order to change our behaviors, we need to change our minds. In order to change our minds, we need to change our level of consciousness. That's it. Mic drop. See you next week.